Driving Business.
Exactly 2 minutes past 7, and welcome to Smart Means Business Today's edition. I'm Anju Barije, your host, and of course today on the 17th of October, that is 2022. And of course today we explore critical developments shaping, that is East Africa's economic landscape, alongside significant international updates that impact, that is business and stability on a global perspective. Now we shall begin with Uganda-Kenya Petroleum Partnership, which is a new collaboration aimed at securing energy stability, that is within the region as demand for energy increases. We know that Uganda and Kenya have prioritized energy security as a foundation for economic growth, and Uganda, reliant on imports for about 60% of its energy, recorded over 1 billion liters of petroleum imports last year. Last year alone. Now, costing the economy, that is around 2% of the gross domestic product annually due to supply chain disruptions. That is as per the World Bank. The World Bank's report. Now, through Kenya's port of Mombasa, which handles routes, this means about 80% of Uganda's petroleum imports. That is, both nations aim to streamline what we call the supply routes. Now, of course, this moves comes as Kenya has upgraded the port's infrastructure that is handling over 30 million tons of cargo, as according to the recordings of 2022. Now, this partnership could continue and also contribute an additional 1 to 2% annual growth of Uganda's GDP. That is according to the African Development Bank, and it is anticipated that the fuel prices could decrease by up to 10%, a crucial relief for Ugandan businesses and consumers, that is alike. And of course, we took later on into the hour in our business insight, we shall be having some leadership endorsements, discussions in line with leadership endorsements which are influencing economic stability and investor sentiment. Of course, political endorsements, we know that they impact the economic confidence of a country. The Uganda Investment Authority estimates that sustained stability could actually boost foreign investment by 15%, that is over the next 2 years. Now, with investor confidence directly tied to political stability, as Uganda's business climate remains quite very sensitive to these signals, which influence decisions from small enterprises. Now, when we turn from the Caribbean East Africa, what we shall be reviewing briefly, we shall be taking a look at Kenya's cybersecurity report. That is according just to between April and June, the cyber attacks in Kenya rose by 16.5%, totaling to over, that is a billion recorded attacks with critical system vulnerabilities affecting private and public institutions. Now, cyber threats like malware and brute force attacks continue to impact businesses despite Kenya's increased cyber security spending. Now, with the East Africa's digital economy expanding, Kenya's cybersecurity challenges serve as a crucial lesson for Uganda in strengthening, most especially, its own systems and protections. And of course, next we shall be focusing on the East Africa growth and the IM Bank acquisition, where East Africa Holding aims to acquire at least 86.5 million shares in I&M Bank. And on the international front, Boeing's union strike has actually entered its second month, with 33,000 workers demanding higher wages and better pensions. Now, the strike has already halted production of Boeing's key models, that is including the 737 MAX, impacting the company's financial outlook. And we know that Boeing recently announced plans to raise $25 billion through stocks and debt offerings to maintain liquidity. Now, as labor relations continue to affect production and profitability, Boeing's move to stability. And of course, finally, to the United Kingdom, we take a look at the fiscal policy. Of course, facing a £22 billion budget shortfall, Chancellor, that is Rachel Reeves, plans to raise £40 billion through tax increases and spending adjustments. Now, of course, promising no return to austerity. These fiscal changes aim to stabilize the economy, that is without reducing essential services. Now, reports indicate potential increases to national insurance on employer pensions, sparking concern among business groups over economic growth impacts, particularly that is in sensitive sectors like the hospitality sector. Now, the Institute of Fiscal Studies warns that these tax exchanges may be necessarily to avoid further economic strain into that. So more of those insights are going to be coming up shortly. Of course, we have quite some updates to look into before we can switch to that, but I was trying to give you the preamble of what you should be anticipating for today's edition of Smart Means of Business. I'm Andrew Barigi, your host, and at this point, let's get straight to what's making headlines within the press. Well, starting off with the Daily Monitor, of course, Wheels of Death, which is the top heading here, as the wheels of motorcycles in Uganda keep going around and round, leaving a trail of devastation as shown in the fatality rate that has climbed above 20% mark over the past weekend, despite the global road traffic deaths falling by 5%. Well, all the statistics all the way from 2019 up to 22 have been recorded, actually even 2023, up to 2023, inclusive here. And of course, still in other headings here, we take a look at a money laundering case against among revived, yes, and tracking gaps in Mpox response. Now, Uganda loses a 180 billion deal as export board goes in limbo, according to the headlines. And fired Kampala City Council authority bosses spend night in cells over the Kitezi disaster. Okay, now taking a look here, proceeding, there are further details. Now, the two-wheeler coffin anatomy of a mace, a whole, of course, they have a kind of portrayed exactly the details when it comes to the road accidents by the borders. Now, in the past decade, the spike in motorcycle-related accidents and the opening awards in hospital, and the opening wards in the hospital facilities dedicated to motorcycle accident victims has actually responded with a telling increase in imported motorcycles. So because the motorcycles, so the importation of motorcycles versus the trailing accidents, well, that's quite something to further investigate. Now, of course, in the national news, we have activists telling the government to establish regional food stores. Yes, regional food stores. And of course, in other updates here, Uganda loses 180 billion deal as export board goes in limbo. Now, of course, the merge of the Uganda Export Promotion Board, that is from and Uganda Free Zones Authority has left exporters in a state of absolute confusion. This is with critical certification processes stalled and significant deals at risk of collapse. So grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor. You'll be in position to find out the details entailed in that. Now, new online public portal to address land encumbrances. Now, before conducting a search on a recently launched portal, users will ensure that they register their credit trials and gate an account. This is according to the reports. And now, the Indian community in other news is to sponsor needy students. Yes, so already we can see their commitment towards that. And the state of the judiciary here, as Chief Justice Owini Dolo has presented the annual performance report, that is for the financial year 2023-2024, in fulfillment of the Section 39 of the Administration of the Judiciary Act. Now, the report, among others, highlights the judiciary's commitment and action to upholding justice, promoting the rule of law, and enhancing enhancing public trust in the justice system, as Anthony Wasaka, of course, has details in the reports in line with that. And of course, in other stories, we take a look here at the Sino Uganda Mbale Industrial Park, which hosts the Buy Uganda Build Uganda trade show. A lot is said about this. So the Sino Mbale Industrial Park and the Ministry of Finance section, they present Bubu Trade Show and Bazaar venue. This is the Mbale Industrial Park, which is set to kickstart off on the 10th. I think this is tomorrow up to Saturday. It's going to be a two-day show. So that is something to look into. Now, in the comment section here, we take a look at somebody here says that America is heading for divided government. How true is that? Let's wait for the elections. And of course, still here, somebody is emphasizing that you need to ensure the right to food for all. Yes, ensure the right of food to all. This is somebody here says that, and of course, the later of the day here, somebody is very convincing with his statement why he says that examinations don't actually have to be stressful. That is what he's saying, and something worthy checking out. And guarantee the right to vote for Ugandans in prison and diaspora. This is what has been urged by the responsible stakeholders. And of course, in the mechanic section here, there is a question, something which I believe every person should be thinking, and you've always asked yourself this question, and this question goes like, does changing tire size affect the gears? Yes, so there are details here as we see what is entailed in that line. Now, in other news, URSC, of course, calls for increased funding to bolster disaster preparedness and response. And they say that according to Dr. Brian Kanahe, Director Disaster Risk Management, he clearly says that increased funding will definitely allow to sustain and expand their timely life-saving interventions. That's why it's very important. Still here in the motor vehicle section, they tell you that bad habits that may be damaging your car. Yes, what are those bad habits that you do unknowingly, but they are causing damage to your car? All right, so further details here as I proceed. Of course, somebody here tells you how you can find the work marriage balance. Yes, quite very critical to look into. And of course, Kabale farmers here decree stringent rules in government's irrigation projects. Now, under the program, farmers must contribute 25% of the funding to the project and provide 2.5 acres of land. This is according to what has been projected to this. And we see that here, Palisa Market operates without a latrine for 4 years. Imagine that. Hygiene is quite key if we are to talk about economic development, because we are relating this to livelihood, having a proper livelihood. And here in the regional news, we see a report which says that greedy relatives steal assets of dead people. Now, numerous court cases in Lango sub-region reveal that widows are left with nothing as opportunists capitalize on their vulnerability. Quite very absurd, and I think this could call for a revision of the inheritance system in our country, because some are actually exploited in the process. Okay, in other regional news, and of course, before I get in there, I see 3 senior 4 students who die after school suspensions. This is so absurd. They have been put in here. So get to find out further details regarding that. This is a very serious matter on that note, by the way, which ought to be really looked into with absolute considerations. Now, in other regional news, they tell us how Ntungamo Dairy Farmers Union lost 28 billion Ugandan shillings in 3 years. Now, the union is the largest union in the southwestern Uganda, with more than 600 farmers and 25 primary societies. So the Commissioner of the Cooperatives Development in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, that is Mr. Robert Barrio, has suspended the board of the Ntungamo Dairy Farmers Cooperative Union over failed accountability that led to the loss of more than 28.6 billion between 2021 and 2023. Further details, and of course, just about the union was started in 2003 by several dairy farmers who wanted to come together to dictate prices and marketing of their own milk. Now, following its establishment and many others in the region, a regional association, Uganda Creameries Cooperative Union, was set up. That is to coordinate the operations. However, the regional union has since failed to take off. Yeah, so there are further details that are entailed in this. And unregulated sand mining destroys roads in Budaka. Yes, see the retail poor mining practices, you know, unlicensed miners, and that's why they are unregulated in a way. And of course, in the updates in regards to the Katanga case, Katanga stepsister explains the genesis of friction, of course, with the widow. The details have actually been presented here. And of course, in the foreign news, Kenyan Deputy President's impeachment trial begins. Now, today, the trial will resume to deal with the evidence and witness from Gachuga's side until afternoon. So let's wait and see what is going to be coming out of this. And Kamala Harris pledges reforms on marijuana. Yes, marijuana. This is Kamala Harris. There is a detailed report in that. And Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, retaliate calls for ceasefire. Yes, so of course, just a brief here. Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a joint undertaking stick to the mediation of Angola and avoid escalating the tensions over the M23 rebellion in Democratic Republic of Congo's eastern side. Yeah, so something to also look into. Now, here in the business section, COMESA probes Coca-Cola over anti-competitive conduct. Now, COMESA will be reviewing agreements that determine if they restrict competition, but the start of the probe does not mean Coca-Cola was guilty of violating competition rules. And actually, we saw this clearly where Google was actually denied the monopoly power over being the search powerhouse, you know, according to the judge of the United States of America. And why he did this, because this was intended that they can create room for other competitors to also have a market share, because we know that Google has actually dominated that space for a very long time. So COMESA is looking into this in line with Coca-Cola when it comes to the competitive conduct. All right, I think we need such regulations strict into this because you realize that majority of the businesses have failed to expand to the level they ought to expand, not because they are not capable. When you are to review their product, you know, the products they produce actually solve problems for the society, but simply because they don't have access to certain markets due to certain conditions. So that limits their growth. And because they cannot be in position to access certain contracts, certain conferences where they can meet, and even meeting the responsible people to help these businesses get to where they ought to get, it's not something that has actually been witnessed by these businesses. So they collapse. And why does that really happen? It's because of the competition aspect that we are discussing today. We are discussing in this case scenario. Now, Ramadan Gobi, government job renewals to consider project performance. This is what Ramadan Gobi says, that government job renewals to consider project performance. Now, Mr. Ramadan Gobi says renewal of accounting officers' contracts will largely be based on the progress of the projects under their ministries, agencies, and departments at the same time. So that is something further reports into that when you grab yourself a copy. Now, Farms report improved business environment. Yes, this is something to look into. Improved business performance. What does that really call for? Now, heading into the sports sector here, hockey against Kawempe. All right, and that brings me to the end of our not press review, but Daily Monitor. Now I'm crossing over to the New Vision as we review. Now here on the, what I'm observing here, what's making headlines, ex-Kampala City Council study here, and the World Food Days was celebrated. Quite very efficient, and in the business side, strict terms for market vendors. Yes, and CDF Indian envoy discuss starting a forensic university. Interesting. Okay, proceeding along here, the United Nations boss praises Uganda's leadership. So grab yourself a copy, find out further details that entailed into this report. And Museveni, important for region, writes ex-UK Premier. This is according to the former Prime Minister, that is Boris Johnson, says that Museveni is important for the region. Now, Boris reflects on his political career, his interactions with President Museveni, and global issues such as the Russia-Ukraine war. And he establishes why he says what he says. So he's actually defending his claims. Advised to reapply. Yes, the vendors of occupying the facilities have been advised to reapply. And Mabike Mokaku deny bribery allegations here. Grab yourself a copy to find out how defensive they were. Now, Mabike rubbished Vincent Mayanja, who suspended him, Lubowa and Mokaku from the DP bloc leadership. This is according to what has been said. And the Chitezi incidents, of course, is birthing issues all the time. Every other day, a sacked Kampala City Council Authority officials grilled for 8 hours, and they have been detained for that reason. Now, the tragedy has raised broader questions about accountability in public offices, particularly in sectors where lapses in oversight can actually lead to loss of lives and environmental crisis. So, accountability. This actually still further details in regards to Muhoozi Indian Commissioner who have had a discussion regarding operationalization of a forensic university. It is the first overseas campus of the Indian University. Yeah, so here as the general meets the envoy of India. Now, new Uganda Investment Authority Board inaugurated has been urged on handling investors. The new inaugurated board for the Uganda Investment Authority has been urged on handling investors. So take a look at how these ought to be handled and what was issued for that. And of course, Jessica Alupo, the Vice President, advocates for food safety here. And this was yesterday during the World Food Day celebrations that were celebrated quite very well. And the Bishop Sekade was passionate about education. Of course, rest in peace. In that, this is what has been discussed about him in that regard. And in the comment section, of course, somebody says that it is time to sound an alarm following the Mpox spread. Yeah, so this is what he's actually advocating for. Sensitization, in other words, being careful about every move that we make here and there. Now, Uganda is also to create 1 million jobs by 2034, says Audric Rabogo. In that, this is in the in the business section. Now, Uganda's ability to compete in the global market will depend on its capacity to produce goods and services that meet the international standards, but also if the goods can actually be in position to answer the queries of the end users. They solve the exports should be a solution. All right, now, as we proceed along here, there is still, Rabogo still cautions against relying on oil and gas revenues. Of course, as we got a very surprise report, I think it was this week or last week suggested about Uganda postponing its oil plans to 2025. So it was this year first, and even this year was a shift because there was a year earlier that was suggested that actually this will be possible, but nothing was done on that. Now, Ministry seeks 135 billion for delisting River Nyamwamba. Yeah, 135 billion that is needed in that line. And of course, one sign that you're not saving enough for your future expenses is leaving one paycheck away from poverty. This is a tip for you to really take in. That one sign that you are not saving enough for future expenses is leaving one paycheck from poverty. All right, something also to look into. And of course, export risks have been demystified here and being urged to consult and mitigate that matter. Okay, finally, as I'm winding up the reports, what's within the new vision. Now, Jessica Alupo, the Vice President, urges Busoga leaders to foster unity. Now, leaders have been encouraged to explore new export markets. Well, that is it for now, exactly 30 minutes. Past 7, half past 7. Allow me to take a short break, and of course, I'm returning with Caribbean East Africa and the international updates. Stick around.